Hawk Tuah from a guy. Back in 2007, there was this one guy that would always hit me up, right? And he played for the other team. And he would always tell me all the time that he wanted to do stuff with me, specifically giving me male Hawk Tuah. I was like, hell nah, man. I even blocked the guy, right? So anyways, me and my friend, we're going to call him George. We were hanging out. We were around the college campus. It was called UTB before it was called UTRGV. And then he tells me, hey, man, there's this friend of mine that wants to hang out with me. He wants me to go to his dorm room, and just go out there and drink and stuff. You want to come along? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. We get there, and it turns out to be that guy that was a lane switcher that was hitting me up on the DMs. I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? But I didn't say anything, right? I was like, oh, you guys are friends? I'm like, oh shit, okay. Anyways, he's over here looking at me. He's eyeing at me, right? That guy, he's like looking at me and all that shit. Until finally, after a few drinks, he gets the courage to come up to me and tell me, hey, C-Styles, can I go down on you and give you like the sloppy? And I was like, nah, man, what the fuck is your problem? He's like, please, just this once. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, bro. I almost like got in a fight with him, right? Anyways, he goes to George, right? He's like, George, can I go down on you, please? He's like, nah, bro, nah. Please, just this once. So the guy is slowly taking off his pants and all that stuff. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then he looks at him, he's like, all right, man, just this once. And then George looks back at me. You take this to the grave. Don't tell nobody. I was like, you do you, dog. I mean, what the fuck, man? Take the pressure off me. So the guy goes down on him. And George is like, oh. And then he's looking at me like, to the grave. And I'm looking over here like, what the? Is this shit really happening in front of me? I thought it was going to go on for like a few seconds. Motherfucker ended up for 4 minutes. He even got to finish because I was turned around, right? By the time, they were doing all that shit, I was just like, man, hurry up, man. Y'all done? Are y'all done? By the time he was done, you could hear that big moan, that big moan you let out. You're like, oh. I'm like, holy shit, this shit did not just happen. George zipped up his pants and he comes to me. He's like, to the grave, homeboy, to the grave. I'm like, hell nah, bro. I'm like, okay, yeah, the secret's safe with me, but nah, bro, what you did right now, like, I'm looking at you sideways now. And I got a question to ask people out there, man. If you're getting Hawk Tuah from a dude, are you considered a lane switcher yourself? I think so, man. Hawk Tuah while recording a song. So back in 2010, I had a studio session, right? And I brought this chick along with me because, I wanted to get with her and we were going to go out to eat afterwards, right? So I brought her with me to the studio. And it so happens that my producer at that time, he had a girl there too. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't really think much of it. Sometimes he brings girls over so that way they could do like a part of the song, like they have to do a little bit of talking or whatnot. But anyways, he's getting the beat ready. Everything's getting all set. Next thing you know, he tells me, yo, the beat's ready. I'm ready when you are. Go in there, record. Bet. So I'm going into the booth and the girl that I brought with follows me. And I'm just like, all right, I didn't think much of it either. I was like, cool, she wants to know how these things are made. So I'm in there. He puts on the beat. I do like a warm-up session where I'm just like, just saying my bars a little bit just to get the feel of the song. Then all of a sudden, she starts unzipping my pants. And I'm just like, oh shit. So she just gives me this one look. That one look that, the girls give you like, it's about to go down. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. So she pulls them down. And then while I'm spitting my verse, she's giving me Hawk Tuah. I don't fold or anything. I'm spitting my verse. And she's kind of, making some noises a little bit while this is happening. You hear a little bit of, As I'm recording my verse, you hear some of those noises and stuff like that, right? And so I got to actually finish my verse by the time she kept on doing it. So I just told her, like, hey, man, just keep going. Fuck it. It is what it is. The mic is still recording. And then I kind of peep outside the window, and my producer is getting Hawk Tuah too from the girl he brought. So I'm over here telling her, hey, yo, man, he's doing it. Like, he's getting the same thing you're doing. So she looks at me and she's like, she keeps on going harder. So basically, it's kind of like a contest to see who finishes first or whatnot. And I think my producer finished first, because she kept on going. And that was that. So we get out of the booth, looking like we didn't do anything or whatnot. I tell my producer, hey, man, I like my take. I like what I did. And he's like, all right, you don't want to change anything else? I'm like, nah, I'm good with everything. So I leave. The next week when I come back, and we go over the song, you can hear the noises in the background. And he's like, hey, yo, dog, I left it in there because, it sounded kind of dope. I was like, bro, you know what she was doing, right? He's like, yeah, man, it sounded kind of dope in the background. So you could kind of hear, when you hear my song Bajo, the song's called Bajo, you could kind of hear the noises while I was getting Hawk Tuah in the song as like ad-libs. So he left it there and we just like didn't even change nothing on the verse and you just hear it. Hawk Tuah while driving. So a while back, I was driving on the road, right? And I had this one girl that I was with. And all of a sudden, she just taps me on my shoulder and she says, hey, you want me to do the thing I promised you? And I was just like, okay, right now? And she's like, yeah. So I'm driving, right? And she goes down and starts giving me Hawk Tuah. And I'm over here like, oh, I'm trying to concentrate and shit like that, And then she does a trick with it too. Like, I've never had this happen to me, right? All of a sudden, she uses her foot, and I'm just like, I'm in awe because I've never had this shit happen to me before, right? I knew I liked girls with pretty feet, but this took it to a whole new level, and I was just like, wow. And then all of a sudden, she just takes off the rest of what she has, and she gets on top of me. Now, this is some challenging shit, right? Because I'm over here trying to drive and look at the road at the same time. So there's some dangerous activities. And I'm just like, there's a reason why I've only done it once and never again. Because all of a sudden, I see the lights behind me. I see flashing lights. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, what the fuck? And I tell her, hey, get back in your seat, get back in your seat, get back in your seat. There's a 5-0, 5-0. So, the cop stops me, right? So I'm like nervous as hell because I'm like, oh man, I'm going to prison for this shit. I'm going to prison for this shit. Of course, he makes me lower the window and says, sir, you do realize you're going at 100 on a 65 mile an hour zone, right? And I was just like, oh, I had no idea, my bad. And he was like, what were you guys doing? And I was just like, I wasn't doing anything. Well, it looked like something. It looked like there was two people on the side of on the driver's side. And he looks at the girl that I was with, and he's like, that's a pretty lady you got there. And I'm just like, yeah, that's my girl. Like, that's your girl? Huh. I think she's a little too pretty to be with you. And I was just like, God damn, man, this motherfucker's trying to flirt with her now. He's like, can you open up the trunk, sir? And I'm just like, all right, fine, you go for it. I don't got nothing there. He opens it up, and I didn't realize I had my CDs in the back, right? I had made copies of my own mixtapes. He pulls one out, and he's like, this you, sir? And I'm just like, yeah, that's me. He's like, oh, you rap? I'm like, yeah. He's like, huh. And he looks at it again, and he's like, I'm gonna take one copy, sir. If it's not that good, I'm gonna have to book you. I was just like, oh shit, for real? He's like, nah, man, but I'm listening to it on my own time. I'm gonna let you go. This time with a warning because you got a pretty lady, and that's that. He's like, drive safely next time. And right before he leaves, he's like, don't try to do it in the middle of the road again. I'm like, do what? You know what I'm talking about. And I was just like, wow. So that's where I got the idea to do the song Pretty Toes, from that incident right there where she did that to me for the first time. And years later I thought about it, and I did the song Pretty Toes. You can check it out too. It's like influenced by that incident. I don't talk about the incident, but I talk about how I like girls, with pretty feet. That right there, just because I had a pretty girl right next to me, the cop let me go. For some reason, when you have a pretty girl, you get away with a lot of shit. So if you want to go check it out, it's called Pretty Toes by C Styles. Hawk Tuah from a torta. All right, a while back, I was out here at this one bar, right? And this is requested. They really wanted this story. So, I'm dancing with this one torta-looking chick, right? But she wasn't that bad looking. She was decent. She had the curves at the right places. She had everything, all good, whatever. But she was just a little big. So I'm dancing with her and shit like that. Next thing you know, she's making out with me. And we're like, we're kicking it off. It's all good. And this is on a Wednesday. I hardly go out on a Wednesday. But during that time, I guess I made an exception. So it's the end of the night. And my homeboy's looking at me like, he's giving me this look like, he's shaking his head like, hell nah, bro. I can't believe you're going with it. And the girl, she's telling me like, hey, let me go home with you. And I was just like, all right, man, come home with me then. At that time, I was living with my parents. The good thing about that is that their room was way across over there, from the hall. And my room was obviously the opposite end. The good thing also about that is that I would always keep my TV on, right? And I would put it at loud volume. So it wasn't rare for me to have loud volume in the middle of the night. So I told her, like, you know what? I'm going to sneak you in through the garage. That's the passage to my room. So I did, right? I sneak her in and I had the TV on. And right then and there, she's giving me Hawk Tuah. We're doing some activities. And I tell her right before, yo, don't make no noises. My parents live here. And she's like, uh-huh. All right, we get to it. And first thing she does within 5 seconds, and I'm just like, yo, I need you to shut up, man. I'm like, uh-huh. And I keep going. She's like, oh. And I'm just like, I need you to shut the fuck up, man. And she's like, I can't help it. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So I keep going, and she's like, oh. And then I'm just like, I'm getting annoyed as fuck, bro. I'm getting annoyed. But at the same time, she's here already, so what the fuck, right? First time I finish, she tells me, you know what? Can we go to my house? I think it's empty. We can go do stuff over there. And I was like, all right, let's go. So I drive her over there, right? When we get to her crib, we start doing things at the couch. And all of a sudden, miraculously, she didn't make no noise. She was just quiet as kept, you know what I'm saying? I just keep going and going, and she's just like holding it in. And then she tells me, it's because my kids are sleeping. I'm like, oh, your kids are sleeping. Oh, okay. And I go harder. And she's like, but she doesn't make any like loud noises. I'm like, how is it that you miraculously could hold all that noise inside right now, But at back over there in my crib, it's like you let loose and shit like that. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. So anyways, we go for 2 rounds, and then I sleep over her crib, right? Next thing you know, I wake up by a big tap on my head, right? Pah! And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's one of her kids. So I'm like opening my eye, like I'm opening one eye. And the next thing you know, another kid jumps on top of me. And then another kid, and they're like, they're just playing around with me. And I'm just like, who the fuck are these kids? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, those are my kids. So she introduces me to them. She's like, hey, this is Louis, this is so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, hey, what's up? And she's like, you want breakfast? And I'm just like, nah, I need to leave, man. I need to go. So I get the fuck out of here, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man. And yeah, that was my story of with a torta.